Before every NBA season, after all the transactions, draft picks made, trades done, and free agents signed, fans and analysts get a good idea of how good they think teams will be heading into the new season. Anyone and everyone tends to share their predictions for how they think the season will go, and while there may be some variance in these predictions, they do tend to be relatively similar team to team. There are popular choices to be favorites, teams that most understand will be bad, and then some fringe playoff teams that people think will battle for a spot in the postseason. This preseason, the Philadelphia 76ers, in the eyes of most fans of the game, were in the tier of possible contender because of the seemingly big offseason that they had. But the season has progressed, and it's looking like more and more of a disappointment. Now, with both Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid injured and missing multiple weeks, things were about to hit rock bottom, but one man in particular has stepped up, and in many ways saved the season, which brings us to the topic of today's video. Today, we'll be discussing Shake Milton and how he seemingly came out of nowhere to play some big-time basketball and keep the team afloat while the two cornerstones heal up. We'll be discussing where he came from, his journey to the NBA, why he was so slept on, and now what he's doing to take his game to another level. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. Shake Milton was born in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, but before he even popped out, he had a nickname that would stick with him for the rest of his life. According to his mother Lisa, his father Myron was a late bloomer growing up, but when he started to finally hit his growth spurt and develop some muscle, it all came at once in a big way. So much so, in fact, that all of Myron's friends used to say that he must have been drinking a ton of milk at the time, so when he was playing basketball at Texas A&M, the nickname the Milkman stuck, and all of his teammates called him that. Fast forward a few years now, and as Lisa is now pregnant with their first child, one of their friends came up and touched her pregnant belly and said, "How's little Shake doing?" Lisa was confused at first, but the friend then clarified that the baby was Little Milkshake in reference to Myron's nickname, and from that point on, Shake would be known as Shake. When Shake's parents went on to enroll him in school for the first time, they were so invested in him being known as Shake instead of Shake that they told them to make sure that they called him Shake, and that's exactly what they did. Shake himself has always loved the nickname, and he always went along with it and introduced himself as such, but it's always funny to hear stories about close friends of his, and even current teammates, of his not knowing that Shake isn't actually his real name. Shake is such a part of his identity at this point that the name Shake is a complete afterthought. Anyway, since his father was a collegiate basketball player, Shake was obviously introduced to the game of basketball at a very young age, and when Myron would go on to coach AAU basketball when Shake was very little, he would take him with him to the games and practices and let little 3-year-old Shake dribble around in the corner while his dad coached. As he grew older and proceeded through the ranks, Myron would actually sign Shake up to play with kids much older than he was, sometimes being 4 or 5 years older, which was obviously tough at the time, but it made him tougher-minded and a better player for it. His smooth and fluid play style of always being under control, knowing how and when to get to his spots and execute, and ability to score efficiently from all 3 levels made him not only one of the best players in the state of Oklahoma, but also in the entire country. In fact, in both his junior and senior seasons of high school, he was the recipient of the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Oklahoma. He averaged just under 30 points per game as a senior, was named first-team All-State among several other accolades, and as a recruit, was being wanted by several big programs. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, ranked in ESPN's top 100, but wasn't necessarily viewed as one of the elite prospects that would be invited to the McDonald's All-American game and pegged as a future star. He had offers from Oklahoma, Indiana, and Illinois, but ultimately committed to SMU because he has actually wanted to become an NBA general manager from a very early age, and with legendary former NBA figure Larry Brown coaching SMU at the time, he provided the best resources for Shake to get situated for future success after basketball. He immediately received big minutes during his freshman season at SMU, but that came in the role of sixth man. However, after 7 strong performances, he took over as the starter on the team, and from there, he never came off the bench again. He finished his first season averaging 10.5 points, 2.7 assists, and 3 rebounds per game, but what was most impressive about his game then, and continued to improve over his career, was the fact that he was so confident, under control, and efficient with how he operated. He shot the ball 48% from the field and 43% from 3 that first college season, and the threat of him being able to get to the basket and knock down threes consistently opened his game up a ton. Then, in his second season, he played a big role in SMU making the March Madness tournament, and his numbers across the board improved to 13 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game, while still knocking down a highly efficient 42% of his threes. Then, in his junior season, he took his game up yet another notch, averaging 18 points per game, while shooting better from 3 than he had in his first 2 seasons, proving that his shooting ability was no fluke after 3 straight seasons of high-level production, but unfortunately his season was cut short after 22 games due to a hand injury. He didn't get to go out on a high note playing with his guys in March Madness, but he also realized that his stock in the eyes of scouts was higher than it had ever been, so he declared for the draft instead of returning for his senior season. Now, while he was finally on the radar of NBA teams, his injury was slightly concerning, so it hampered his stock in the eyes of some scouts, and it wasn't necessarily a guarantee that he would have been drafted anyway. This, in my opinion, was pretty overreactionary at the time, because before he got hurt, he was thought of as a potential first-round talent, and his measurables were terrific. Milton measured in with a height of 6'5" with an outrageous 7' 1" wingspan. With wingspans, as long as your arms are slightly longer than your height, it's considered a good thing, but for Shakes to be a whole 8 inches more is unbelievable, and it's obvious when you watch him play that he benefits greatly from this length. This, combined with his soft touch around the rim, helps him finish through contact and in traffic, and when he attacks the basket hard, he can reach past the contest of defenders. When draft night finally came around, he did slip as some anticipated, but his name was eventually called 54th overall in the second round by the Dallas Mavericks, before him immediately being traded to Philadelphia. Coming into a situation like Philadelphia, it was always going to be a challenge for him to find a role on the team, especially someone drafted where he was. As I've discussed in prior videos, some players in this situation tell teams not to draft them, because being taken late in the second round by teams without many minutes to spare sometimes sets guys up for failure, but Shake came into Philadelphia ready to work for a hard role on the team. His first contract was a 2-way contract, meaning he was obligated to spend a certain amount of time down in the G League and was limited in how often he could participate in NBA games and practices. But because the Sixers already had a set rotation, he used this as an opportunity to work on his game even more and show the team that he's highly capable of scoring the basketball, which as a guard was something that the team was in desperate need of last season, and still this season were in desperate need of again. He played 27 games in the G League last year and finished the season averaging a highly impressive 25 points per game down there, which ranked 4th best in the G League, and at times he simply looked too good for the level of competition, which is exactly what he wanted the coaching staff of the Sixers to realize. He pretty much only played garbage time last year in the NBA, but heading into this season, there was opportunity to claim a spot in the rotation with guys like Jimmy Butler and JJ Redick now gone. Early on in the year, as someone who barely played at all the season before and outside of the G League hadn't really proved himself, he was sprinkled into the rotation at times, and there would be moments that he impressed, but it was nothing major. Keep in mind that this is his first time getting regular NBA minutes, so obviously it's going to take some adjusting. He was starting to look comfortable as a member of the rotation, but then bad news struck as he suffered a sprained knee and a bone bruise in November that halted all momentum he made, and in a competitive team like Philadelphia, with several guys battling for minutes, missing time set him back. For the next 3 months he would play sporadically, but it wasn't until late January that he got inserted back into the regular rotation. He was getting back into the swing of things, knocking down shots from the perimeter, acting as a reliable secondary ball handler alongside Ben Simmons, and all in all playing his role well. The team had a ton of up and downs this year, especially on the road, but they did start to play their best basketball of the year around the All-Star break, but it was also around this time that both of their two best players, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, suffered injuries, so the team was in desperate need of someone to step up. Obviously, guys like Tobias Harris and Al Horford, who were both handed massive contracts this summer, were guys most looked at as players that needed to start finally earning their money. But over the last 5 games, none other than Shake Milton has been the one at times looking like the best player on the team. In this 5-game stretch, he's averaging 22 points per game, shooting 63% from the field, and a ridiculous 68% from 3. And included in there is a game against the Clippers on national television where he nearly dropped a 40 bomb, coming just short with 39 points in the contest. With Joel Embiid set to return soon and Simmons coming back closer to the end of the regular season, his role will undoubtedly return back to normal as a secondary playmaker within the offense, but that doesn't mean that he should get brushed aside. All season long, the Sixers have lacked players that can shoot from all 3 levels, create for others, and make plays off the dribble, and when given the opportunity, Milton has excelled in each of those areas. The team has experimented already with benching Al Horford to create more spacing out on the floor, and while there has been a ton of debate about who the 5th starter should be to replace Horford, I would strongly advocate it should be Shake. He can operate pick and rolls with both Embiid and Simmons as the roll men, he penetrates the paint and finishes well at the rim, and off the ball, he's been a terrific spot-up shooter. Will he continue to put up 20 or more points on the regular? No, of course not. However, on a team with aspirations to make a deep playoff run, his skill set could be the missing piece that they've been looking for all year long. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think Shake Milton's future holds. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.